Hello, welcome to PODnas. This is a sports show with some Southern and Cajun flair. I'm Daniel Hawks. That's Jared Roser. Today, we have got such a good show for you. We're going to preview week 7.
7.
Week
6,
7.
6,
6, 7. It actually is 6, 7 because it's week 6 of the NFL, which that's where my mind always is. You're always in college football mode. It's week 7 for us. I guess I am too. Let's roll the tape. You good, Minch? All right.
Whatever the producer got. Run it, Trevor, or whatever.
Run it, Tate McRae.
Kyle.
Run
Tate.
to the hills.
Go on.
Shout out to Tate. I love her. She sings well and she's a nice looking lady. We do our Podnas Pick 7 every single Friday, and here's the deal: we pick 7 games. At the end of that, I am always right. Jared is always wrong in the picking. So
you're not even right in the description.
Oh yeah, I think we're on high shenanigan alert today. That's great. I'm so
You're
here
all
for it.
Hopped up on cheeses.
Yeah. Oh man, don't even get me started. That's a whole other thing. So we're gonna pick 7 games for you. We're gonna go through them, kind of preview them a little bit. They're gonna stay in the Louisiana realm, but we will dive outside of that. Just because Louisiana Tech and who else is playing tonight?
Tulane. ECU on Thursday.
Yeah. On Thursday, we're recording this on Thursday. Won't be able to get it up, so makes no sense to really do that. So let's get it started. First big game of the week. We'll probably spend most of our time on this one. It is LSU out South Carolina. That game is 6:45 on SEC Network. Last year, South Carolina eked out a loss to LSU. I'm not going to say LSU eked out a win because they definitely should have won. This LSU team is in a place right now, coming off a loss, coming off of a bye. The offense needs to show something. I think that's going to be a lot of maybe what we talk about here. The defense has been playing really well. It's a very weird kind of topsy-turvy reverse world that we're living in from the last couple of years, where the defense has been abhorrent and the offense has been really good. What are your thoughts on this game? What are the keys to kind of LSU taking a victory going up to Greenville, South Carolina?
So the game's here.
Is it not? Oh, not man.
So we're off to a rousing start for you to the pick 7. It's interesting, I guess, the way you describe sort of where LSU is and how, topsy-turvy it is for the last few years, because this has been more in line with, I guess, what we would have expected to be talking about like a decade ago, in terms of, man, the defense has been great. Can the offense do enough to make it work? And that was for such a long time the traditional outlook of LSU football, but we've been reversed for the last few years. And I think you're right from a standpoint of, at this point in the season, everyone's just kind of waiting to see, is Nuss going to start looking more like what we had last year come to expect him to look like? Can LSU find some semblance of a running game to complement him, help him, help this team overall as they continue to look for a complete game, as they continue to look for complementary football? Those have been kind of the buzzwords around the program all week, of trying to play complementary football and trying to play their first complete game for 4 quarters in all 3 phases of the season. And so that's, as the SEC gauntlet really kicks up, that's been a focal point. Obviously with where LSU's been in recent years, and you face a quarterback like Lenora Sellers who can hurt you with his legs, there's always going to be some conversation of that in terms of an LSU defense making sure to be disciplined and contain a running quarterback. But I think we've seen positive signs from LSU under Blake Baker this year in particular, and doing a better job of that. And honestly, South Carolina has not run the ball well, whether with Lenoris or anyone else on that team so far this season. And so that just hypes up the focus that much more on what can this LSU offense do against a South Carolina defense that can get after opposing passers and has been solid defending the pass. And so it's an area that LSU wants to see some signs of progress in, against some areas for South Carolina that have been their strong suits and what has probably been a little bit of a disappointing season for them out the gates as well.
Yeah, um, I really want to see how Nuss moves around and how he kind of throws the ball, because it's just been very clear that he's not 100%. Or, as 100% as anyone is going to be at this point in the season,
Yeah.
or at any point during the season. But it doesn't feel like he's making the kind of throws that he was making last year. And it really just feels something feels off. And so I would love to see, whether LSU wins or loses this game, I would love to see Nussmeier kind of take control, especially in certain situations. And if they do that, I mean, I think LSU has a good shot to take away a W, because we've seen what Garrett Nussmeier can be when he is at 100%, and it is unbelievable. So, what's your pick for this game? Let's do this thing.
Yeah, I think LSU wins. They are actually favored by more than I realized they would be. I think it was like 9.5 or something that they're favored by in this game against a South Carolina team that, again, hasn't been what folks anticipated they might be so far this season, but is dangerous. I continue to have all the confidence in the world in the LSU defense to hold up its end of the bargain, and I just this is not Ole Miss. I don't know that we're going to see the LSU offense yet that we're hoping to see from them at some point, but I don't think they need to even be at that clicking on all cylinders level to beat this South Carolina team the way South Carolina has played so far. And so hopefully we do see some progress, establishing some more of the running game, hitting on some more things downfield. But I just think this is one that if LSU is going to be even in the conversation to be the type of team that we expect them to be, that they've got to take care of this business at home against a team that hasn't been great yet.
So I have been tossing and turning with this pick, because in the preview episode, I picked LSU to lose to Ole Miss and then lose this USC game, and then not to lose again. I kind of want to stick to my guns and pick South Carolina, but then my big prediction is that LSU does not lose another game the rest of this season. So we're gonna stay with it. I'm gonna keep with it. I'm gonna keep an LSU loss here. I hope I'm wrong, but I think that happens, and it is kind of the butt kick that they need to jumpstart everything in this offense. It'll be a very, very low point, but then I still think LSU can get into the playoff with 2 losses in the SEC if they win out from there. So that's my prediction. LSU loses, but does not lose again the rest of the season.
How many teams do you look at the rest of the season though and say they're a better team or a tougher opponent than the South Carolina team? If they drop this thing and then suddenly you're okay, Texas A&M looks like they're in that second tier of teams in the country. Alabama at this point looks like they're probably in that tier. Oklahoma, if Matier is healthy, is in that mix as well. So that would be a bold way for this to play out, to stumble here and then go beat all those guys.
Well, fortune flavors the bold.
Does it? It flavors the bold. You've been tossing and turning over this one.
Yeah. Should I go back on it? I'm going to go back on it. LSU wins.
I don't care what you do.
Okay, we're going LSU. Oh, that was a nice little insight into my brain and how my brain works. Next up, Cajuns at James Madison University, 11 a.m. ESPN 2. It looks like Daniel Beal may have to start this game. Lunch. Yeah, it was lunchtime last week. He's dealing with an ankle injury. I don't know what source, but I know you told me that just now. So, can you just give us a little idea of what's going on with this ULL program, and then we can make our picks here, because there's a lot of stuff kind of up in the air with Lunch Winfield, the supposed starting quarterback of this Cajuns team.
Yeah, I think the expectation is still that they're hoping that Lunch is ready to go by Saturday morning. That was kind of the word from Coach Dez on Wednesday night, talking to reporters, is that he'd been banged up coming out of that Marshall game. And that was actually something that I'd noticed in the third quarter, which makes that much, more impressive what he did the rest of that game, because early on in his time taking over, you could tell he was kind of working through it and limping a little bit, and then battled through that and it was able to lead that huge comeback against Marshall. But apparently it ended up being a lingering thing that was bugging him throughout the bye week and limited some of his preparation. And so the Cajuns are hopeful that he's ready to go by Saturday, and not only ready to go, but potentially able to start this thing. But Daniel Beal obviously is the guy that's been starting since Walker Howard got hurt, and both of those guys they hope will be ready. Both, regardless of who starts, would theoretically get some opportunities to play. And
is there another quarterback on the roster?
Yeah, they have. I don't know everybody on the roster, but I know at least Sam Altman, another guy that signed with Daniel a year ago from STM. I don't know if he's third on the depth chart or what their overall depth chart looks like beyond the three that we've talked so much about during the season. That was kind of the race or the battle for the opportunity. But
I mean, I think regardless of who's under center, it doesn't change the kind of game plan for the Cajuns. It's to run the damn ball. They are 23rd in the country in rushing yards a game at 212. I'm sorry. 212 yards a game. Zylan Perry and who is the other running back?
Bill Davis,
Bill Davis. Both of them have been incredible on the ground. If UL is going to have any chance in this game, they're going to control it with the ground game. And it's going to be the quarterback just not making mistakes, whoever that may be. So that's going to be, that's going to be what would be a winning formula for this Cajuns team if they're going to come out of this game versus James Madison with a win. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. This James Madison team is consistently super pesky and very good. So I'm going to go with James Madison. Unfortunately, I hope I'm wrong.
Everything you just said, I mean, about the running game needing to lead the way, that's what we talked about in the preseason. That's what it needed to be, even when Walker Howard was still the quarterback, a little bit older, more veteran of a guy with some SEC background to him and everything. You wanted to be able to lean on these two fantastic running backs and some of the depth behind them at that position. And it became all the more important when Walker got hurt early on in the season, regardless of whether it's Daniel or Lunch at any given point. Zylan and Bill are kind of the known commodities in that backfield. And this is a Cajuns team that has been built on good offensive lines and running the football behind them. And so that's always had to be a part of the equation. We've seen that particularly when this team has had some success this season, even in a tough loss last time out on the road at Eastern Michigan. The running game had them in position to have a chance there late. And so there's confidence that can travel. They're going against now a JMU team that has been good defending the run. On the other side of the ball.
That's what I was going to say as well, is that as good as UL has been rushing, James Madison's been better. They're 10th in the country in rushing. And also as good as both these teams have been in rushing, that UL defense has not really stopped the run effectively. They're letting up 221 yards on the ground a game. That doesn't kind of bode well. That feels like it plays right into JMU's hands. And I think that's kind of what the kind of backbreaker is that James Madison is able to run the ball effectively and really keep their foot on the gas because of that and wear this UL defense out. And, that's just going to be less time that this UL offense has. And they're going to have to make a lot of their opportunities on offense with a backup quarterback or a backup quarterback. I think that just makes it pretty hard for this Cajuns team to pull out a victory here.
Yeah, exactly. The other piece of the conversation with, okay, run the ball effectively is go play defense really effectively and consistently. And that hasn't been the case yet this season. They've had trouble consistently tackling. It's cost them at times. That's something, I mean, whether it be in opponent's running game or yards after the catch situations, they've let some things get away from them at times and it's hurt them. That's part of why that Marshall game was such a back and forth chaotic experience at times, was some plays where Marshall was able to break through some tackles and get some additional yards after contact. And that's an area where, as much as I know it's a focal point for the Cajuns right now, and they're trying to improve there, that until I see it on a consistent basis, I have a difficult time betting on them going on the road. And, when we haven't seen it on the field yet, assuming that's going to be the case against a JMU team that they can move the ball effectively. And so
I think
agree with
every
you.
every team that's in the bottom half of a statistic in the defensive category, it's going to be a focal point going into each week.
Yeah.
It's just not, it doesn't look like this is, they're kind of locked in on that side, or at least doesn't feel that way from looking at the stats.
I'm still hopeful, optimistic, all those things that they can get that sorted out. That's an area that we thought they'd be good at, that it could be a strength for them this season, and it hasn't been so far. But until we see it play out that way, I'm also going with JMU at home against the Cajuns, having to travel and still trying to kind of figure themselves out here.
All right, next game up. There we go with that. Next up, number 8, Bama at number 14, Mizzou, 11 a.m. on ABC. Mizzou, the last couple of years, has been pesky, and I never really think of them as like a true SEC school or competitive in the SEC, but the entire time in the SEC, they have always, from the first 2 or 3 years where they were here, where they were in the SEC championship game. Now, albeit they got their ass kicked when they were in the SEC championship game, but they're a pesky team. And I think Alabama, or just any team that's used to playing a later game, a 3 o'clock, a 6 o'clock game, that it usually is a bit of a slow start. We've seen this with LSU at 11 a.m. games all the time. It's a little bit of a slower start to kind of get the rhythm, get the feel for the game that some of these teams have that aren't used to playing at that time. It kind of, people's whole game day, their game day routine kind of gets thrown off when you have to do this. If Mizzou can kind of take advantage of that with an offense and a quarterback that can run, and we've seen the Alabama defense have some problems. Last week they allowed Diego Pavia to almost rush for 60 yards. He could kind of get out of the pocket whenever he want. Diego made a couple bad mistakes towards the end of that game that really gave Alabama the win there, but Alabama's defense had problem with Tommy Castellanos, with Diego Pavia. I think that the Mizzou quarterback is Prabula. I'm not sure how to say his name. Prabulis is gonna make them droolies. That didn't work at all. We're not gonna cut that. We're gonna keep it. I think that this Missouri team is going to make this a lot closer than people think, but I do think Alabama comes out with the win.
I was so lost as you were trying to say what I think is Prabula, that I didn't realize you were even trying to say his name. I thought you were trying to say is probable or is some. I thought there was some sort of adverb or adjective.
His name is Bo. We're just going to call him Bo. How about that? I can pronounce Bo, and I apologize, Bo, but I'm not good at names. I never have been. I'm trying to get better. So, yeah.
So he actually pronounces it boo. No, I'm kidding. Watching your face was great. What was the question? How did you try to lead to me? What were we talking about?
Leading. I was just saying that I think that this Missouri team is going to keep it a lot closer than people think.
Yes,
that
I think Missouri is a really good football team.
Missouri is a 3.5 point underdog. I think that this is going to be like a 1 point game. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a field goal at the end to kind of win this. So I would take that 3.5 point spread. Yeah, that's all I was saying. I think Bama wins, but I think Missouri will cover and will keep this thing super duper close.
I'm going to take Alabama as well. They have been clicking, and whatever Missouri's doing right now, Ty Simpson and the Crimson Tide offense have become one of the most effective and efficient offenses in the league the last few weeks. And so I'm taking them to go on the road and continue that. But I wholeheartedly agree that Missouri is more than capable of keeping this thing close. I think Missouri is more than capable of winning this game and surprising a lot of folks. And that would get really interesting for an Alabama team that we're now talking about playing really well. If they go on the road and suffer a second loss already by mid-October, that conversation starts to to flip back on its head a little bit. But I don't think it even takes a letdown or a what the hell did they do to lose this game type day from Alabama, because I think Missouri is good enough to compete and win this game. But I'm going to stick with Alabama and, the higher ranked team going on the road as slight favorites to take care of business.
Yeah. Missouri has, I believe, the third longest home winning streak in the NCAA right now. And Alabama has just recently broke the team that had the first longest winning streak this year in Georgia. So Alabama on the road is not something to mess around with. This Alabama team is not something to mess around with. And that's why I'm going to have to pick them. I will be rooting heavily for Missouri, though. So let me just put that on wax, as the me says. I don't know if kids say that anymore. I just know I still say it. So
the interesting thing from like an LSU perspective, though, is LSU gets to play Alabama in November and does not face Missouri. And so if you're confident you can beat an Alabama team and you want their resume to be as good as possible, and you want to be the ones to give Alabama that second loss or whatever, whereas Missouri is just kind of out of your control as it comes to rankings and the jockeying for position later in the season. It's probably not a ton of times that an LSU fan can kind of find that, oh, maybe I should be rooting for Alabama today, but I think there's certainly a case to be made for that.
Yeah. And your case is denied. We're rooting for Missouri. Oh, I would just love Alabama to have 3 losses and not get in the playoffs. That's the way I'm going to think about it. All right. Next up, number 6, Oklahoma at Texas, 2:30 ABC. Is Arch going to be ass or is he going to be good? Mateer still not playing for Oklahoma, obviously nursing that hand injury.
The hand industry.
The hand industry. Hand injury. I don't think that this Oklahoma team without John Mateer is going to be able to beat this Texas team. I know that they lost to Florida last week, but I don't think they lose 2 in a row. I don't think that really happens with this Texas team, with that Texas defense. And also, who is Oklahoma's quarterback right now? Who is the
kid's name?
Here.
Michael Hawkins.
I listen, you go to Oklahoma, that's a top tier program. You're probably a really, really good football player. I just don't think you're going to have what it takes to go down into Austin and take a win from this Texas team. I do not think this defense plays as poorly as it did. They could not get into the backfield last week. It was unbelievable. I don't think that happens again. I think that this Texas defense makes the Oklahoma quarterback make some mistakes. And I think that's going to be the key here. And I don't think Arch needs to do too much right now. I think Arch needs to find his own game and stop trying to be the hero, which it kind of feels like in a lot of these games, it's like he's trying to do everything. And some of that is his receivers aren't catching balls. He's not getting any support from anywhere else. I mean, he was the leading rusher last week at Florida. Sometimes that's great, but when your quarterback is consistently the leading rusher, I don't think that's a recipe for winning football unless it's Lamar effing Jackson. So, yeah.
Lamarch Manning. So a couple points. They're playing in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl, as they
still in Texas
usually do.
Yeah.
And you started and you asked, is Arch going to be ass? How is he going to be? And then, eventually mention all of the other pieces around him. The offensive line has to be a lot better than it was at Florida. And as much as we talk about Florida defense and traditionally don't talk a lot about Oklahoma defense, Oklahoma's defense has been really good so far this season and is actually leading the SEC in sacks. And so the sense might be, okay, they get out of the swamp, come back, face an Oklahoma team, there's more of an opportunity to kind of settle in and have some success on offense. The Sooners, even without John Mateer to lead their offense, are probably going to get after Arch fairly effectively. And that Texas O-line's got to be better this week in terms of protecting Arch, giving him some time, allowing more of the run game to complement him, as you mentioned, not having Arch be far and away the key in terms of running the football. I'm not going to be surprised either way this game goes. I think at one point this week, Texas was favored. I know as we are later in the week now, Oklahoma's favored. It's been a tight line all week, one way or the other. I don't know if I'm still just like giving Texas too much benefit of the doubt. I kind of feel like they figure this out and get a win. But my feeling of that is not based on a whole hell of a lot that we've seen on the field so far.
I know. It's, I mean, this defense is still top 20 in overall defense, and they are top 5 in scoring defense. They are top 12 in rushing defense. That passing is that they're almost allowing like 200 yards a game passing. That's about 34th, but still, that's not terribly bad. And
they didn't look great at Florida though against the DJ Lagway offense Florida. That had not been good.
And I'm wondering if Florida's doing the same kind of thing last year, where they just kind of give up the first month of the season and then something finally clicks, and we're kind of seeing, and that's kind of what that, to digress onto Florida a little bit here, what that Florida team has kind of said is they're going to find the offense. Once they find the offense, everything's going to be clicking. And that maybe looks like it started to happen last week. We'll see if that happens again when they play next. But I think that this Texas defense is a lot better than what they showed last week.
Yeah, I do too. My biggest surprise coming out of the Texas-Florida game was that Texas's defense let me down in terms of my expectations for them in that game. And so that's another area where they need a bounce back performance for the Longhorns. And if they do against, again, a backup quarterback in Michael Hawkins, then that can bode pretty well.
Yeah.
I'm taking Texas, I guess. I don't feel good about it, but that's where we're at.
Yeah, no one does. No one feels good about it. Next up, it is number 7, Indiana at number 3, Oregon. Are they playing anywhere different before I make a fool of myself again? Or are they playing up in Eugene? Yeah, they're playing in Eugene. Okay, I see it right here. All right, that game's 2:30 CBS. So if you're looking for a 6-hour football game, CBS is your station. All right. I'm so glad. Side note, I am so glad the SEC does not have a contract with CBS anymore. Do you know how long those games were to watch? It was terrible. They would go to commercial after kickoff. They would come have one play, and then they'd go to commercial again. Then someone would scratch their nose, and they'd take a commercial break. Then Gary Danielson would talk for 15 minutes, and they'd take another commercial break. Get it together, CBS. A lot of things with Paramount, parent company. Get it together. So.
You don't miss Gary and Vern on the call?
I miss Vern. I miss a Vern Chortle. Who doesn't miss a Vern Chortle? Okay. I think, you have to, but Gary Danielson, no, I do not miss it all. I'm more than fine with having a Kirk Herbstreit call for my main game. That's pretty nice. This Indiana team is very underrated. This Oregon team has obviously been playing great. Dante Moore is one of the best quarterbacks in the country right now, but Mendoza is right there with him. I think that this Indiana team looks a lot better than last year, a lot more cohesive than last year. It feels like last year they were just trying to scratch the surface. And, from listening to bunch of people, but hearing that Mendoza didn't do any camps, do anything this summer, he stayed with the program and really got to know this offense. I think that that's going to come in a big way. What are you laughing at? What
you said? Hearing from like a bunch of people. You basically mean you've been listening to the Todd McShay podcast a couple times, and you've heard him
no, and the Ringer Tailgate podcast, and the ESPN one, whatever that is. So yeah, whatever. Why you gotta out me like that, bro? Yeah. But that's a big one. I mean, the dude watches tape all the time. What am I gonna not listen to him? We're in a combative mode today, Jarrett.
It all started with cheese.
But what he said is very true. I mean, and you can see that from watching Indiana play, is that this offense looks like it's clicking more. That's my eyes saying that. That's not
They've been good.
Anyone else. I think that they can pull off this upset over Oregon. I'm going to pick them to win.
Ooh, you said at the beginning Indiana's been underrated. I think that's true from the public perception and people not talking about them as much. Up there at 7, though, I don't know that I consider them the 7th best team in the country. Just it's kind of fallen that way because of who's lost when and whatnot. I do very much consider Oregon a top 3 team in the country right now, and I like that they're at home, a place that's been tough to play. And so I'm taking the Ducks to take care of business at home against an Indiana team that has been much better, that I think probably is a top 10, potential playoff type team. But I just think Oregon is right up there in that top tier of Ohio State, Miami, and Oregon, and then a little bit of a gap before everyone else. And so I'll take the Ducks to take care of their business at home, and not at a neutral site venue or anywhere else you want to.
Well, we have to get the thing that's going to help you win. So there we go. That's it. There's the one where you're going to have the win on today. So very excited for you for that.
How are you this defeated over it already? You just had all of your sources were telling you about Mendoza's great offseason, and you were rolling. This is the time they're going to.
And then my partner
put the country on notice.
My partner in this show completely shot me down. So.
No, I didn't. Look, they're doing great. Indiana is a good
Next
football
up
team.
Is ULM, the University of Louisiana Monroe versus Coastal Carolina, 6 p.m. ESPN Plus. ULM really let with my own eyes, I seen it, let the kind of wheels fall off at Northwestern.
And you weren't going to get any help on this one from McShay and them either, because I actually texted a couple people the other day when I was listening to them, and Mensch said something about, Alabama played Louisiana, whoever, like they weren't even sure of the team. And so they're probably not going to help you on your ULM tape.
No, they're not. Thank you so much again for making me feel like an idiot. So, this ULM defense is still really solid.
This team's favored on the road at Coastal, which says a lot about, obviously Coastal not being what it was for a few years there, but ULM being solid.
Yeah. That being said, I think that this ULM team has the ability to force some turnovers with a quarterback over there in Coastal Carolina who has, thrown as many interceptions as he has touchdowns right now. Got to contain the run game. I think obviously that's what Coastal Carolina is going to want to do, is control this game on the ground. But I think ULM is the ability to stop that. I think ULM comes away with a win on the road here at Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, I'm going to go with it. We saw enough instances from them last year winning games that we have not historically anticipated them being able to go win. And so I've started to, over the last season and a half, have some confidence in this Warhawks program under Coach Vincent that I hadn't had in previous tenures. And the setup that you mentioned of a team in Coastal that is prone to give the ball away in spots against a ULM defense that has been solid. And when you can get a couple takeaways, they become really difficult to beat. And we've talked on this show in recent weeks about the strides we've seen from Aiden Armenta and the ULM passing game being more of a complement to that running game that was really good last year. And, prior to that Northwestern trip last week had been solid this year as well. There's a lot, when we talk about recipes, there's a lot makes sense here as a recipe of a matchup for ULM to have success on the road against this Coastal team. And so road favorites for the ULM Warhawks. I'll go ahead and pick them. We'll see.
I also think with this ULM team, they were taking shots last week, and it was just like a second off, like they literally, there was this one play down in the end zone where it was super close to a Northwestern interception, but that's just because it was a little bit far. But looking to take those shots, looking to kind of make those big explosive plays is something that this ULL team has done all season long. And you can see it. They're almost averaging 300 passing yards a game. This Coastal Carolina team is letting 250 yards of passing a game on this defense. They're allowing 250 passing yards a game. So this ULM team can attack them in the air, and I think they'll have the ability to have a super balanced ground attack with a passing attack that's just going to lead them to a victory here. Suck it. How was that for some analysis without the help of Todd?
No, I think they need to tune in and use you as their source next time they talk about ULM, because they couldn't even remember where the school was. And so, you out there, boots on the ground up in Evanston, Illinois, getting your ULM scouting in. They need to call you in.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Does that make you feel better?
Yeah, it did. You've been a little catty to me today. Okay. All right. Now, last up, Patriots at the Saints, noon, CBS. They have to get out of there by 3, so it'll only be a 3-hour game. I loved how much fight the Saints team has put up every single week except one. This Patriots team is coming off a gigantic win versus Buffalo. Do you think that the Saints have enough to upset a kind of up and coming rising Patriots team?
I think a big piece of that is whether the Patriots are able to build off of that Buffalo win and look like that team consistently, or whether it's still kind of an up and down early go for the Patriots and they're still trying to kind of find that consistency. I'm picking the Patriots to win this game. I think everything that you talked about a couple days ago, watching that Patriots Bills game and some of the plays that were made there down the stretch, Drake May looking like he's kind of finding it. I'm gonna bet on that being kind of the sign of a trend that we're watching play out, and that it's not going to be an up and down deal, and that this Patriots team is just as pesky as the Saints want to be this year. This is a better overall team on this season. I think there's a lot of signs of life for the Saints, but I don't think it's enough to I don't think a Vrabel led team is going to have a kind of letdown like this. And also, just candidly, I would love for the Saints to stay competitive in every game and lose. If we're looking at it now while watching the game, that is definitely not how I'm feeling. But I think the goal now is to secure that number 1 pick, whatever that is going to be, no matter that is, whether it's offense, defensive player. Maybe you have to wait another year on quarterback. If what's looking like this draft class for quarterback isn't as rock solid as we previously thought before. But having that number 1 pick, having the option for the number 1 pick, even with the ability to maybe trade that out and get a bunch of assets back, I think is going to be paramount for the Saints team's growth and building whatever Kellen Moore is trying to build there down in New Orleans. So unfortunately, getting a W isn't in the best interest of the New Orleans Saints right now. So I'm going to go with the Patriots as well. Yeah, we've been pretty vocal about our perspective of this as a multi-year process for the Saints. And then you obviously have become, week after week now, just a bigger Boston sports fan than I ever realized from you. And so this all really checks out. This is kind of the best of both worlds for you.
You're being a real bitch today. Curse jar.
I can't believe that it took, after everything that we've been through so far in the past 40 minutes or whatever that it took calling you a Boston sports advocate.
That was 1,000% the trigger.
that really took it to the next level. It wasn't the pointing out that your sources on the whatever. I don't even remember what game.
Well, I should have just said the one source. I should have said from listening an interesting thing I heard when I was listening to the McShay show, because it was an interesting point that he didn't go to the Maine Passing Academy, that he didn't do all this stuff, that he can't. Whatever. I'm getting hot about it now.
I just like how much more sensitive you are about being called a Boston sports fan.
That's very true. That's very true. I hope they lose everything. Shout to Adam Holtman and Dupre. Anyway, that's our PODnas Pick 7. It was a roller coaster today. A lot of emotions happening back and forth, but we will check in with you on Monday. Do our little recap of all these games. We're also going to recap that Tulane and Louisiana Tech game. Let you know what was going on in those. And maybe we'll do a little something else, like tell you the winner of the high school play of the week. Okay, so
is there a dog on the screen again?
I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this, but I might. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know what happens here.
Yeah, just be quiet for a second. Drum roll, please. Edna Carr, Nigel Marshall, and the entire Edna Carr defense with a goal line stop. You are our high school player of the week. High school play of the week. Maybe not the player. You could be the player, but the high school play of the week winner.
Nigel was great. That whole defense was great in that game. That play was a huge turning point. Is probably a little bit overkill there. They were up 2 scores at that point, but it was a really pivotal moment that helped them keep that lead where it was and then expand on it with a long drive that followed. And I'm not at all surprised that in a fan-based vote that got the win. There were some great play options, but as I texted you this week, Edna Carr fan base is
shout out to them. Y'all came out, y'all voted, y'all made your presence felt online to the tune of our most viewed post ever. So thank you very much, Edna Carr team, and way to go. Congrats. You guys are the winner. You get a shout out from PODnas and the love and support of the whole PODnas staff here, which is just Jared and I. So
the Cougars are in a very elite tier of programs around the state that if you put a fan vote up, they're going to be really, really tough to beat. And so they support those kids.
Shouts to them.
Extremely
Absolutely.
well.
That's amazing.
And did so once again.
And hey, guys, if you want to be a submission for the play of the week, send it to us. Please reach out to any of the socials, LA versus all y'all on Twitter, Instagram. You can shoot us a DM, DM the PODnas Instagram, PODnas_LA. What is the email that they can send you if they have any?
Louisiana versus all y'all at gmail.com.
Louisiana versus all y'all at gmail.com. Send over those plays. It helps us, y'all being the eyes and ears out there. We would love to see every amazing play that happens on Friday, sometimes Thursday, sometimes Saturday, there in the high school world in Louisiana. We would love to see that. So please reach out to us, and we'll try and get your play up. So anything else before we get out of here, Jared? Do you have anything you want to pump? Go check out the new LouisianaVersusAllYall.com. It's a great website. So much stuff on there for and more stuff coming from PODnas. Recruit That Boot. Also, some articles Jared's got up there about the state of Louisiana sports and who to root for in the NFL. All those kind of things.
Yeah. I was like, I'm not telling y'all who to root for, but yeah, the NFL preseason article makes
yeah. And that's all we got for you today. Please like, share, comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, it helps us out a bunch. I already kind of did the socials there, but PODnas_LA on Instagram, LA versus all y'all on Twitter and Instagram as well. That's all we got for you. PODnas.